What's shaking, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Bad Religion, and we're going to their Empire Strikes First album. This is 2004, the second album after Brett came back to the group and the group returned to Epitaph Records, which, I mentioned before, when The Process of Belief came out, I was immensely excited. I had become a huge fan of Bad Religion by that point, but in real time, as I was going through their catalog leading up to the mid-90s, many of you will know Brett and especially Jay Bentley had sort of a falling out. Brett officially decided to focus on distributing and working as the head of Epitaph, which by that point had had a major international hit with Offspring's Smash, and that was I think the biggest independent record label, biggest selling record on an independent punk rock label ever. Ultimately he turned his attention to Epitaph, whereas the band went over to Atlantic, and eventually they worked with Todd Rundgren, who I know is a big sort of hero of Greg Graffin in terms of the musical sort of catalog that he had put together. My understanding is that working with him wasn't as great of an experience as Greg had hoped. But again, so as we get to the late 90s, I've now caught up with Bad Religion's material, and I was enjoying the music they did in the second half of the 90s. I think I mentioned Grey Race in particular. I really enjoy that album. But I admit, I was man, I like what they're doing now, but man, the stuff they were doing about 10 years ago, which I discovered in the last few years, holy crap, that was really great. So when Mr. Brett announced that he was coming back and the group was going back to Epitaph for Process of Belief, I was very excited. I absolutely love that album. I feel by the time you get here, and maybe even more so by the time you get to New Maps of Hell, which is 2007, I think they really sort of got the chemistry back to a great place that they had been before. Not to say that Process of Belief isn't fantastic, I really think it is, but I think it's, the material that came on the next couple albums is even better. So, like I said, we're going to listen to a song from The Empire Strikes First. This is 2004, and we're going to listen to Sinister Rouge. The term sinister, I think, is very appropriate. This is essentially Bad Religion, living up to their name and ultimately articulating a non-religious critique of the influence, power, exploitation, brutality, and ultimately depredations of religious systems, both, psychologically, socially, culturally, even politically. So it's a song that makes reference to, people being burned at the stake and all these sort of abuses and extreme violence of the Inquisitions and ultimately right up into the present in the way that at this time, which, right up in the present, this is 2004, but the way in which, there was a certain kind of religiosity that was becoming more combative and seeking to sort of, go back to old time religion where, you don't have to make allowances for other people with different belief systems and so on. So I think the song is not only turning a critical eye toward large religious systems, again, perhaps Christianity in particular, because the song speaks to child sex scandals within not only the Catholic Church but other religious denominations as well. So it's casting a critical eye both in the past and right up into the present. Ultimately, there are many cases. As someone who studies history and as a secular individual myself, I'm well aware that despite the fact that there are people who just do their best to, live up to the moral standards that they feel flow outwardly from their religious beliefs and just try to be good people, there are many people who do use their religious beliefs, whether cynically or just, sort of fanatically, to pursue a lack of tolerance of people with other views and violence ultimately. So this song criticizes that, both, again, going way back to, the Middle Ages, right up on into the present, and again, perhaps especially, there's a whole verse about, sort of what was going on under the pontiff's nose and only God will ever know. So there's a special verse for that sort of heinous history and legacy of the sort of Catholic Church in particular, but like I said, that is not the only denomination in which shocking revelations like that have come to light. So I'll stop talking about horrible things. Let's just listen to a song about them. And this is Bad Religion from The Empire Strikes First, 2004, and the song is Sinister Rouge.
Innocent
was an extra like half like bar or measure that they put in there. But yeah, I love that tune. Sonically, lots of oohs and ahs, the harmonies as they always list them in their credits, which I enjoy the way they write it. It's not oohs like OOHS or something. It's like oozin, OOZIN apostrophe, and then ahs like AHS. Nevertheless, that is a prominent example, and it's one of the things that I think I had come to see as a hallmark of the group, and it was enjoyable as they were, Brett came back and they were getting back a bit closer to what I had felt like was their original Epitaph sound. Again, maybe more mature, maybe a little bit different, but yeah, it was one of the things that when I was listening to this album, and as I mentioned, maybe even more so the next album, is like, man, they really have found that sort of groove again. So yeah, like the tune, again, it's tough subject matter, but hey, as Jello Biafra has once said, sometimes the first aspect of discovering or of solving a problem is admitting it exists and starting to talk about it. So yeah, ultimately it's a tune that I think fits very well into the sort of philosophical socio-cultural critique that you would expect from a group like Bad Religion. So yeah, shout out to them, shout out to Greg again. I'm thinking about it more and more as I do these reactions. This is 2004, and I do feel like more than 20 years after they got started, you can definitely hear a difference in his vocals compared to the stuff on 8085. So, yeah, let me know what you think of the song. I will see you next time. Peace.